Hello everyone, beautiful people. This is Zahir here, and I am back from my vacation slash mental health needed time off, whatever you want to call it, hiatus. So yeah, it's been good. I had a good bit of relaxing time. You guys who I've been in contact with have been super supportive, and even those of you just, commenting here and there and even subscribing while I haven't been uploading anything. You guys are absolutely freaking amazing. We actually hit past the 130, where not long ago I had made the video to celebrate the 100. So there's been like 30 plus subscribers more since I've just been off, like taking time off. So thank you so much. It's actually amazing. I'm like a little bit like super happy and a bit emotional, so thank you. So yeah, we've had a lot of different changes in Overwatch recently, but of course we're gonna be covering the most recent ones. I'm not gonna be going over them for too long. It's just for anyone who hasn't been up to date with the experimental card, since there are some people who just play the game and they don't actually, look at what's been uploaded on the experimental card. I actually know some people personally who are like that. So just to kind of keep you updated in case you're interested, here are the patch notes. So first of all, Brigitte, and I feel so sorry for all Brigitte players out there, because to be honest, I mean, again, I'm not like super high ranks. I'm just like gold support, silver tank, and bronze DPS. So I'm not exactly, speaking for the guys who have maximized the hero's abilities. But to be honest, I mean, most of us in the player base are actually in lower ranks, and this is just my opinion now, but I didn't really feel like Brigitte was that much of a problem anymore. I mean, they had really taken away the big main problem, which was the whole armor thing, and they even lowered her barrier. So, I mean, she was a lot less viable already, but for some reason, I don't know, they wanted to nerf her even more. So here's another nerf. So her base health has been lowered from 200 to 150. So now she's still like 200, but she's got like, it's actually 150 plus that 50 armor. And her Inspire, the total healing is decreased from 130 to 90, which is like a huge cut, and the healing reduced from 21 to 15 health per second, and her self-healing is no longer reduced by half, which, I mean, it does make sense, because otherwise, I mean, she might as well not have any self-healing at all with these new numbers. Then they did change Orisa as well a little bit. I did try her, since I do play more tank than anything else. I tried all three roles. I didn't try Brig because I don't really play Brig that much, but I do play Erisa as a main tank, so I did want to try the change for Orisa. So her base armor reduced from 250 to 200, which, to be honest, I didn't actually notice a difference, so I don't think that's a bad change. And then there's Halt. The radius is reduced from 7 to 4, and boy oh boy can you feel that. And projectile speed is increased from 20 to 30, so that's definitely better. It does make up for the radius thing. It does feel more like a skill shot when you do it, but you can't like get the whole kills that much anymore, which saddens me quite a lot. I was actually really happy, because when I decided to try Orisa on the experimental card, I instantly got Ilios, which was like the perfect map to try her on. And we got the map with the hole. We've got the Ilios well, and man, the amount of times that I tried, I would have to get like too close to the edges to get people into the hole, and it just wouldn't pull them all the way in because the radius just, was so small. So I think it's gonna be a lot harder, close to impossible, to get people into the well, which saddens me quite a lot, because it's one of my favorite things to do as Orisa. But I guess, life is life, and we're gonna have to use it, more proactively, with making sure people don't run away when they're trying to run away, just like cleanups and stuff like that, setting it up for stuff. So setting it up for like dragons with Hanzos and things like that. So I guess I'm gonna have to kind of discard the idea of getting a lot of well kills, which was my favorite thing to do, and just focus on everything else. That's the only thing that I'm sad about. But really, I think she's pretty cool the way she is in the experimental card, I won't lie. Then the next change is Farah. I've got few mixed feelings about Farah, to be honest. Farah is my baby, my baby DPS. Her and Echo are like the two that I use the most, so it saddens me and it makes me happy at the same time to the changes that they've made to Farah. So the hover jets, the movement speed is increased to 20% and the regeneration rate is reduced from 50 to 35 per second, which is a huge cut to her regeneration rate of her fuel. Now, I wouldn't mind if they did that and lowered the cooldown as well, because right now, I don't know if many of you are aware, there is a little red part on Farah's jets, and that's basically an indicator to let you know that that's the right time to be boosting, meaning that when you boost when you're at the tip of that red gauge, you're gonna have full fuel by the time you're up in the air. And that was really, really well done for anyone who knew how to use their resources and manage them and make sure that they're up in the air all the time. I tried mentioning this in the forums, but I had some people being like, oh well, there's no need to touch the skybox all the time, but it's not about touching the skybox, more so just staying off of the ground in general. Like, for example, even when you're playing Mercy, your number one priority should never stay on the ground unless it's, you know, like specific scenarios where it's better to like stay on the ground and hide behind a corner and stuff like that, you know, take advantage of, you know, the fact that the healing beam, excuse me, that's my phone, that the healing beam is, you know, it can stay attached even while you're like in cover and stuff like that. But otherwise, you should always aim to stay up in the air. And it's the same thing with Farah. And even if there's like hit scans and stuff like that, I mean, ideally, if you're in higher ranks, you would switch up because those hit scans are going to be a lot harder to play against because they're going to have better mechanical skill. But in my ranks, you can actually just play around corners when it comes to hit scans because their aim isn't very good. So the few seconds that you expose yourself to go and hit someone or even hit that hit scan, they're not going to be able to hit you on the first go, unless they're Smurfs, obviously. So, you know, it's really good to be able to stay up in the air because it lowers the chances of you getting hooked, getting stunned, you know, like all those things, like getting into a grab, like all of these things you can avoid because you're always on a high ground because you're just flying, right? So having that fuel reduced by that much and having the exact same cooldown for your jets, it really is just counterproductive to the whole idea of how Farah was created in the first place, which was the flying character. Sure, there's Echo now, but they also did kind of limit Echo's flying in a way. Like, she has better control, yes, but she is in the air for less time. While Farah was really the only character that was able to stay in the air 100% of the time, as long as you knew how to manage your cooldowns and your resources. But now it's basically impossible to do because she has no fuel, and by the time you're at the red gauge and you boost yourself up again, because she has less fuel regeneration, it doesn't regenerate all the way up to the maximum, and so every time that you boost yourself up in the air, you're always gonna be lower by the time you end it until you end up being ground Farah. And everyone who plays Farah knows that ground Farah is bad. You don't play ground Farah. You're always up in the sky, and you should always be up in the sky or in, you know, close to areas where you can drop down on high ground, but you should never be down on the floor because what's the point in playing Farah then? This is anyway my opinion. With Barrage then, the duration is reduced from 3 to 2.5 seconds. This one I didn't notice too much of a difference, probably because I didn't really get to play too many games on the experimental card. I guess it's like a buff to, you know, her vulnerability for sure. I just, you know, I love Farah to bits, so I'm just kind of sad that I won't be able to cover as much ground, but really that's because of my snail-like reflexes at lower ranks. So that's just really more of an incentive to be a little bit faster, more perceptive of where everyone is and just try to kill them as fast as possible. So I guess that's a buff to her, but still kind of something to be adjusted to. Then there's Roadhog. Roadhog also got a change, and honestly I'm quite sad about that. I stopped playing Roadhog for a long time. Roadhog was one of the very few off tanks that I actually used to play until they started like changing all kinds of stuff with him, and then I was just like, okay, like he's useless now, there's no point. Then they, you know, put his ammo back to 6, or not back to, but they increased it to 6. And I was quite happy with that. And I was playing him for a while, but I realized that he still just wasn't that great. Yes, in lower ranks, he's great if you're like a flanker and stuff, but I only learned how to be a flanker when I started playing a lot more DPS. At the time, I was more of a main tank person, so playing Roadhog the way I was used to, which was just taking a lot of space, hooking people left and right, I couldn't really be doing that anymore. I had to be more reserved and more careful about where I was angling from and just how to flank, and I was just completely useless at flanking at the time, so I just ended up dropping Roadhog altogether. And from what I understand, he's still kind of a trash pick anyway, no matter like, you know, well, not, yes, I was about to say no matter the rank, but no, that's incorrect, because in lower ranks he's really viable. But like in higher ranks, apparently he's a bit of a trash pick. And now they're like nerfing him even more, which I don't really understand why. So the ammo is reduced back to 5 again. They just undid that whole change. But then to try and like, you know, balance it out, they upped the damage per projectile from 6 to 7, which is not really that much. And then the recovery is increased from 0.7 to 0.85 per second. So, I mean, I don't know. I feel that's an overall nerf, to be honest. I know they try to balance it with some buffs there, but it just feels like an overall nerf. I think Roadhog really needs a little bit of looking at in terms of like reworks. Then there's Sigma. I don't really play Sigma that much. Again, I'm more of a main tank person. I know there's the whole debate of, oh, but Sigma is a main tank and stuff like that, but I don't know. I think I see him as an off tank whenever I play Sigma. I don't feel like I can keep everyone safe with Sigma. I always feel like I need the help of another tank to be able to make sure that my backline is safe. Well, if I play someone like Monkey or Orisa or Reinhardt, even Balls sometimes, depending on like the composition, I feel like I can protect my team in the back, either because I'm creating a distraction and everyone's looking at me with ball, or say, for example, if you're like the other 3 tanks, you're just up in their face all the time and they have to get past you to be able to get to your team. But not with Sigma. Sigma is a little bit iffy, so I don't really like playing him. So his experimental barrier, his health was reduced from 900 to 700, which is quite a lot, but I'm actually kind of okay with that, because the way his barrier should be used anyway, it should be more to block cooldowns and such, and people tend, at least in lower ranks, they tend to leave their barrier out all the time, and obviously, you know, it ends up just getting destroyed for no reason because the Sigma players are just leaving it there, sitting there, because they're used to it lasting for so long. So I think this is a much better idea. It forces people to remind themselves to retreat the barrier, otherwise it's just destroyed all the time, and they're going to be using it more considerably, and you know, they're going to be more reserved about the resources, because at the end of the day, a barrier is a resource, it's not a cooldown, so you should be careful about how you use it. The regeneration rate as well has been reduced from 120 to 80 per second, which is a huge cut as well, so hopefully that's gonna, you know, work towards that. And then the kinetic grasp, the cooldown is increased from 10 to 12 seconds. I don't really feel that was necessary. I mean, both kinetic grasp and his barrier are kind of like his only means of not just protecting himself, but protecting people behind him. And nerfing both things, I think, is going to be counterproductive. I think if you're going to nerf the barrier, you should leave kinetic grasp alone. Or if you're going to be nerfing kinetic grasp, you should, you know, leave the barrier alone. Either way, it shouldn't be both, in my opinion, anyway. I think kinetic grasp is kind of one of the very few hopes in lower ranks to be going up against bastions and stuff, and bastion is played a lot. It's like a desperate pick of people that just don't know how to play the game, and they just think that it's gonna work, it's fine, I'll just pick bastion, I'll like set up in a corner and I'll just point and click, and I'll just put myself in a corner where I can see where everyone's gonna be coming out from. I just like click where heads are gonna be coming out, and that's it. And a really good pick to counter that is, you know, Sigma, of course, Diva as well, for obvious reasons. And I mean, Sigma can just like suck all of that damage in, let his team pass through, and not just that, but then he's gonna get like a huge temporary shield to be able to go up and push. But if you increase the cooldown from 10 to 12 seconds, I feel that's gonna be hurting lower ranks more than anything. I understand for apparently in higher ranks Sigma is super strong. I don't see why, because of course I'm in lower ranks, but apparently he is super strong. He is like so OP. Is everyone up there is saying that, and I'm like, okay, but for the rest of us, not really, you know? And he's kind of one of the few hopes to go against these Bastion mains. And with that increased, I feel that it's gonna be a lot harder to be doing that. You'd be waiting 12 seconds on the clock to be able to make that push again if you missed the kinetic grasp, or if you do the kinetic grasp and somebody still dies and you have to group up. If you're in a team that actually is able to group up, and you're gonna have to wait another 12 seconds, unless of course you have a diva with you. I've been rambling about Sigma a little bit too long, so I'm just gonna go to the next one, which is Symmetra. So Symmetra I did try. I found it super cool, man. I have always been a huge fan of Sim, and I'm always so happy when they like do something good with her and make her somewhat viable, because she's never played. Like the only time she's played is when you TP somewhere, you know, oh, let's do the TP strat. That's literally like the only time you see Symmetra. She's just her TP. I mean, you might as well just have TP and like no photon projector whatsoever, because like that's what all she's used for, right? So I always like super happy to see her thrive a little bit. I was so happy when I saw her thrive during the double shield meta where she was like super OP. I was one of the first people who was like, hell yeah, Symmetra pick, let's go. But unfortunately, they just nerfed her down to the ground like immediately, almost way before they nerfed the shields to the ground, when like those were actually the big problems, you know? Orisa and Sigma were the big problems, but the first one that they decided to completely annihilate was Symmetra. So I'm really happy to see that. So the Photon Projector, which is the primary fire that has been changed, the delay before losing charge is increased from 2 to 4 seconds. So that means, if I understand it correctly, the charge that you gain from either charging up against like shields or armor, you're gonna be gaining that, and it's gonna take you longer to lose that charge. And I actually like that, because it was something that was quite annoying, where you would be like in the middle of a team fight and you know you're like getting loads of charge and you're like, wow, this is awesome, and then you just don't look at someone for 2 seconds, maybe because I don't know, you gotta get healed, you gotta like back up for like 2 seconds, something like that, and you come back and in the team fight and you've got this tiny teeny little, you know, photon projector, and you're like, okay, well, I gotta build it up again, and then you just literally just go run after a shield. Any shield will do, just so you can yum it up, you know? So I'm quite happy to see that change. And then the teleporter, I didn't think that this would be that much of a change, but holy hell, it is a huge change. 2 seconds off of that is actually huge. You should probably, I think, be seeing the game now. During this game, I was like TPing everywhere, man. I was TPing my team, I was TPing myself, putting myself on high ground. I used it to escape. I was able to use the TP like quite a lot. I think this is so much better. I really hope that they keep these changes, because it makes her way more viable. I mean, if you're gonna be using her for her teleporter, might as well not use it as a one TP trick, you know, we TP the whole team there and that's it. You might as well like make the TP her thing, you know, like her type of mobility. And I think that's like what this is trying to address, and I'm quite happy with that. And then lastly, the last one is Zenyatta. So his Orb of Destruction, the secondary fire, the charge rate is increased by 15%. So it was 0.6 seconds and it has been put down to 0.52 seconds per orb. And then the rate of fire is increased from 8.5 to 9 shots per second. So shoots faster after it's released, charges faster as well. It's really good. I tried it. I'm not that great at Zenyatta. At first I misunderstood that change. I thought it was his primary fire. I realized his primary fire was still really slow. And I was like, okay, well, I might as well try the secondary fire anyway. And my god, it was so much better. So yeah, I hope this goes through, because it'll make Zenyatta just a little bit more viable with his shield break as well. So I hope it goes through, because poor Zenyatta, he needs some love. He hasn't had some love in a while. So yeah, these are really the changes. A lot of people are saying that this this is going to call for a meta change and a meta shift. Of course, this is just going to be for the higher ups, because anyone in the lower ranks, I don't really think we're going to see that much of a change. Probably if the Farah change goes through, we're going to be seeing, I think, less of Farah. Right now, there's a lot of Farahs going around, and I think that's from the aftermath of, you know, buffing her AoE damage. But I think that if they put this change through, people in lower ranks are going to find it really hard to manage her fuel, and so I think we're going to be seeing a lot less of them. I think we're going to be seeing probably more of Roadhog in lower ranks, and I think the reason for that is because a lot of the time whoever uses Roadhog is really just Smurfs. Nobody actually uses Roadhog because he's kind of a trash pick everywhere. If you're trying to, like, you know, work with your team, but Smurfs know just how much value they can get out of Roadhog because of, you know, how to flank and stuff like that, and they know how to do it against, you know, lower ranks, obviously. So I think the only area we're going to be seeing more of Roadhog is whenever you play against Smurfs. Sigma, I think he's going to be used a lot less in general. He's already not used that much in lower ranks, but I think he's going to be used a lot less if this change goes around, for sure. I think we're going to be seeing a lot more Symmetras if the change goes through, for sure. Orisa, I think the pick rate's going to stay the same in lower ranks, to be honest. She's still going to be used kind of the same. Brigitte is never really picked anyway, so that's fine. And I think we're definitely going to be seeing a lot of Zenyatas in the lower ranks, for sure. So yeah, I think this is it. I have been recording for like about 25 minutes. So yeah, it's a little bit long, but I hope that you enjoyed the video. I'm really happy to be back. I'm going to be doing the whole weekly update stuff again, and yeah, I'm super energized. Can't wait to talk to you guys again. Thank you so much for your support so far. You've been amazing. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you do, give it a like, and if you haven't subscribed already, feel free to subscribe. I'll only be in your notifications box in your phone only once a week anyway. It's not going to be that much. You might see me like a second time a week if I upload something special, like one of the new video series that I'm doing, but I probably won't be doing that for a while. I want to kind of like ease into this whole thing again. So yeah, that's really it. Oh yes, and there's a Discord server as well, the Discord. If you want to join it, it's in the description. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you later. Bye!